Yeah, so the ECB is running this 0% inflation, what they called an experiment now, for 8 years. So they've had less than 0% as their key central cash rate for 8 years. So they raised recently by 50 basis points, which was greater than expected. So they were sitting at negative 0.5%, and they increased rates to 0%.
How does that work? So you give money to the bank, and the bank takes money for looking after your money? How does that work?
Exactly. So on the central bank level, it does appear to that way that you can borrow money and be paid for it. However, when it comes down to the consumer level, it's a lot more diluted down because the bank's obviously going to charge people for it.
It's only for the big guys.
It's only for the really big guys, and the banks get that rate when they're exchanging money in the overnight money
So it's
market.
more for the banks, rather.
Exactly. But what it does do for the consumer, it brings down maybe deposit levels even further to maybe from
Like to nothing.
to absolutely nothing. And at some points, yeah, maybe they take money away from you for having money deposited. But on the other side of things, it's definitely more for the central bank. So I'll bring up a quick chart just showing you exactly what interest rates have done in Europe over the last, say, 20 years. And as you can see, they've been on a very steady decline. We had that spike up at the dot-com bubble and a rapid cut to 1%, a spike up during the GFC where they went to 3%, and since then they've been lowered to effectively 0, then below 0, now 1%. So, of course, a lot of negative/positive commentary. It was definitely expected by the market, I think. I mean, they're definitely behind the curve. We've got countries such as Canada, the United States, England, Australia, all raising interest rates, but the ECB was still waiting for that. We've got some commentary by NAB's Tappers Strickland. He said, the market has brought forward rate hike pricing for the ECB, with some chance of 75 basis points at their next September meeting.
Which would take them up to
75.
0.75. Right?
Exactly right. And a 70% chance of a 50 basis point hike priced in for October. So you think about that. If they hit 75% and then 50%, they've gone from negative a half to positive 1.25 in just 2 months, which is an extremely, extremely fast move. And of course, at the same time, they've got a war in the east of the continent, which is one thing to contest with. A lot of political instability in, say, the countries like Italy, where their prime minister or president has just stepped down for the job and their parliament is in turmoil.
COVID as well.
COVID's still running rampant. They'll be going into winter soon, and COVID will most likely take control.
Big heat waves in London.
At the moment, they're dealing with fires, actually. Funny enough you say that. They are dealing with fires in the UK at the moment. And while we're on the UK, I've got another chart here showing you just how negative people in the UK are. So this chart spans over 50 years, so quite a long period of time. And according to this chart and according to this sentiment reading, consumer confidence is at its lowest in the last 50 years.
I'm not that surprised. I have lived in England. I did live in England for quite a while, and they are a notoriously negative bunch.
They can be a little bit pessimistic. I mean, when
When
it's raining on you, 350 days of the year, fair enough. But yeah, they've been set on fire this week. Horrible, obviously. But it just shows you some of the things that they've been through. I mean, they had negative 15% interest rates in the 1980s. They've had a lot of political instability over the last 50 years. They had COVID. But it's the cost of living. Brexit as well, exactly. But it's the cost of living that's really getting them down right now, driving inflation across the whole Eurozone. Of course, they're not in Europe technically, but the continent they are, or in the region they are. So a lot of negativity in Europe, and this rapid rate rise definitely doesn't help things when there's still a lot of turmoil and a lack of growth in the region.
Absolutely. I'm just going to touch on one more thing out of my own personal curiosity. There's it's Japan's negative interest rates, aren't they, as well? Is that right?
They have begun raising like the rest of the world. One of the interesting central banks to recently raise rates, I believe, was Switzerland. They've been notorious for having negative interest rates. Of course, they use the Swiss franc rather than the euro, and they're the neutral country in Europe. So a lot of people, was such a high demand for that currency that they cut rates so low to reduce the demand.
Denmark has had it at all.
Exactly. So a lot of these Eurozone countries, but Japan is another one. Australia has outright been very upfront by saying we're never doing that.
So the way...